And you've already explained to us who Mr. Deese is, but just maybe go over that again. So would you say he's the senior economic policy advisor to the president?
100%. I would say when it comes to U.S. executive economic authority, the most important person is President Biden, obviously, and his most important advisor is Brian Deese. And then, of course, Secretary Yellen is a very significant and, frankly, brilliant figure and player in all of this. And we were, maybe just as a quick footnote, I don't want to offend the Treasury, in talking about these EV incentives, we were very much in touch with the Treasury, both with Secretary Yellen and with David Lipton, who worked in the Treasury. They were very aware of our proposals, too, and supportive of them.
Is Mr. Deese someone you talk to often?
I try to. What was striking to me about the conversation I had with him on the 10th of February is he is a person who is very hard for Canadians to get a hold of. And actually in the fall, when we realized how significant the EV issue was, and when in my conversations with the Treasury, I really learned how important the White House and Brian Deese were, and also our ambassador, Kirsten Hillman, sort of identified to us, Brian Deese is the guy you have to talk to. And it was a real effort to develop a relationship and a dialogue with him. And an effort to always an effort to get him on the phone, to get him to answer an email. And I don't mean that in any way to slight him. He's an extremely busy person. In a way, the fact that it's hard for Canada to reach him is a good thing. It means we're a peace, order, and good government country, and they're not very worried about us. And so what was really striking to me was how quickly he got on the phone with me on that Thursday. It was instant. And while in some ways, that was, as a practical matter, that was good, but it gave me a measure of how worried the White House was about this.
Okay, so let's look at the summary of the conversation you had with him, Mr. Clerk. If you can just scroll down to, so we can see that entire part of the email.
Yeah.
Okay, so starting February 10th, so this is you, Mr. Freeland, writing. You say, he called me. They are very, very, very worried. If this is not sorted out in the next 12 hours, all of their northeastern car plants will shut down. He said that he supposed that this proved the point that we'd made previously to them about how closely integrated our economies are. He did not seem to see this as a positive. He asked what he could do to help us. I said, tow trucks? Make your point about banning travel to the U.S. for participants public. Arrange a call between the PM and the president. And then you say he was aware of points 1 and 2, tow trucks and banning travel, and said he would push on both. He was supportive of the idea of a call and would try and make it happen. So can you flesh out that summary a little bit of what Mr. Deese was conveying to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, can you move up a little bit? Just, I think the second sentence, he said that this proved the point about how integrated our economies are, and he didn't seem to see this as a positive. He brought that up. And you have to kind of bear in mind, I have been bugging the guy, and Canadians have been nagging Americans since the fall. And we've been saying, guys, you don't understand Canada. You don't understand how integrated our economies are. This approach you're taking to the EVs, it's completely counterproductive for you because we work so closely together. Those parts, they cross the border 6 times. We've been saying this over and over. And so he comes back at me and he says, yeah, okay, like you've made the point. We get it. And it was a surprise to him, actually, the extent to which their car industry was dependent on the trade with Canada. But that was a dangerous moment for Canada, I felt. Very, very dangerous. because the US then and now, as part of their own soft landing from COVID, something that is happening there is a real move to protect the supply chains of the United States. The same supply chain challenges I was talking about earlier as affecting Canada affected the US. And I think we have all seen a very strong push this year by Americans to insulate their supply chains, particularly from China. I'm very worried about the semiconductors, but more broadly, COVID brought alive to them the vulnerability of their supply chains. And this was so worrying to me because I could see, really for the first time ever, the Americans having this amber light flashing in Canada. And this amber light that said to them, you know what? The Canadian supply chain could be a vulnerability too. And that's a problem for us because there are plenty of Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, who would love any excuse to impose more protectionist measures on us. So that line to me, it jumped out at me. It made me really, really worried. And I really understood at that point that the danger wasn't just the danger of it wasn't just the immediate damage. It wasn't just the immediate harm. It wasn't, this plant loses 4 days of operation. The danger was, were we in the process as a country of doing long-term and possibly irreparable harm to our trading relationship with the United States? And it's also important to understand that our trading relationship with the United States, it's not just about Canada-US trade. It's about Canada's attractiveness as a destination for all foreign investments. Japanese car companies invest in Canada because of our trading relationship with the United States. So that one conversation was a seminal one for me, and it was a moment when I realized, as a country, somehow, we had to find a way to bring this to an end.